hey, this is the next to last episode of this particular show, but you can help support other shows like this and other experiments like this by going to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. Once again, patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. Thank you.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to File Underwater, where we try to convince you that R.E.M. is America's greatest rock band.
That R.E.M. is America's last rock band.
The last rock band. I'm Queens of the Stone Age. What about me?
You're doing dance stuff now.
Yeah, you turn new wave like they all do.
Oh, man. We're here to talk about R.E.M.'s final studio album together, Collapse Into Now, which came out...
collapsing into now. We're collapsing into then.
Right. We're collapsing into 6 years ago.
Yeah. Seems more recent than that, but it is not.
Yeah, I mean, everything has moved so quickly since then.
True. It's true. It has been a very eventful 6 years.
Yes. But yeah, it came out in March of 2011, and this is, like I said, their final album.
Yeah, final album. They played their last live show. We're hitting all the lasts today. And out of all bands, R.E.M. is not going to reunite.
Nope.
I am 100% confident in that. That's something every band ends up doing. Not every band, but most bands that break up do kind of high-profile reunions.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally have a kind of a low opinion of those. Like, I think that I went and saw... that's why I've gone and seen the Pixies, which is one of my favorite bands. I got a chance to go see them. It was so clearly them past their heyday.
Yeah. And
their records they put out since then have been god awful pretty much. They're some of the worst records that I own.
Yeah.
I don't truck with reunions generally, but I can literally just not see R.E.M. doing it. Like, if something happens and one of them they do a benefit show as a new titled thing with all three of them in there, maybe, but there's not going to be another R.E.M. album.
No, absolutely not. They're not. I mean, there might be something where they get up on stage and perform together, but yeah, it's gone because if there's anything we've learned, they tend to stick to their guns.
They definitely do.
Yeah.
So some country, they need a new cause. It's like a Wag the Dog movie where somebody manufactures a cause for R.E.M. to get back together.
Yeah, because we are definitely at a loss for things that need fixed.
Yeah, exactly. They're just waiting. They're waiting for it to get a little bit worse.
Yep.
It's still good. Oh,
is that what accelerate meant? Accelerationism?
Yeah. It's just it's a little tyrannical. It's still good. Yeah. It's and also just to note up top. Not the last episode of the show.
No. We have some odds and ends, some odds and sods coming up in the next episode. We're going to be finishing on the listener mail, the third one of those. Unfortunately, it's too late as of the time you hear this, but hopefully you saw us saturate social media with it. We're also going to talk about, I want to look at what they've done after a little bit, Yeah,
I want to talk about Michael Stipe's weird old man beard.
Yes, his Instagram where he's at the center of every single shot.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a bunch of goofy stuff. They did that Bowie tribute that was really good.
Yeah.
They're doing stuff, and we're not going to talk about everything Peter Buck's done because it's too much stuff. But he's still Peter Buck. The guys didn't die.
No.
They're still around. They still get to live and everything. It's actually a very positive thing that they got to go out on their own terms. And same thing with the show. I answer this question all the time. We've answered it before, but I'm going to answer it again. People ask what we're going to do after this, and the answer is nothing.
Right.
As of now. So the show was always meant to be a short run. I love the idea of short run podcast. My all-time favorite podcast I've talked about a bunch is the Andy Daly Podcast Pilot Project. I like the idea that a show can be this is 20 episodes. It covers this thing and that's it.
Yep.
And that thing is not news related. It will stay evergreen. It's just kind of treating podcasts less of a periodical and more of kind of a reference. So we don't have any plans. This was always meant to have an end. And there are other bands that I love as much as R.E.M. There are other bands that Cole loves as much as R.E.M., but this is the spot in the Venn diagram that overlaps.
Right. So we've answered that in several Q&As, I think, since the show began. If there was another band that fit that profile, we would consider it. But right now, we feel confident with what we have made so far.
Yeah.
And don't want to take another bite at the apple and maybe come up short by talking about things that we don't share a passion for.
Yeah, and R.E.M. has like a story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information, about them. So like it is this is a good band for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying there couldn't be another band, but like we're just not going to search that out.
Right.
Just people know we appreciate that people like it and they want to hear us talk about music more. I recommend buying the 4 episodes of Try This if you want, and just keeping an eye. I'm not saying we'll never do music again, but for now, this is the end. We're also going out. We're writing and reading our own obituary, as the book that we read put it, which is something I really like. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's get into Collapse In and Out, which is I'm so happy that this didn't. Another thing that like if we did this with other, I'm just coming up with reasons not to do this. If we did this with other bands, with the exception of something like David Bowie, if we did this with the Pixies, one, there's still like ellipsis at the end of that. They might put out new records. Two, like their last out, like I said, their last like reunion albums all suck. Like it would be terrible to go out on the show on a terrible note, but instead this is like one of my favorite R.E.M. albums. Like this is actually extremely good, and the show has like gotten me to like really give it a chance.
Yeah, I never had the motivation to dig into it because I didn't expect them to find their voice again.
No, I mean I didn't either. And as somebody, obviously as somebody who fell off as early as Reveal, I was just expecting, like I knew that it was softer than Accelerate, but I was worried that they were back on their bullshit. Like they had done Accelerate, which I don't love. Like I said, I don't think those, those are, I like that tone a lot. I don't think all those songs are particularly good. But I was like, oh man, they're just going back to adult contempo R.E.M. that like I grew to loathe as time went on, and they didn't.
Nope.
They actually kind of made themselves an alternate universe greatest hits kind of thing, like a revisit to every period of them. And like this album is such a perfect end for this band. It is such like a love letter to every era of R.E.M. I can't imagine them doing this better.
No.
And that is such a good place for them to go out on.
Yeah, it's like this perfect cross section that achieves the variety of things that we really like, like your Reckonings or your New Adventures in Hi-Fi, right? This is wide ranging and expansive. They, one quote even called it inclusive in a way. And the fact that they, I mentioned it as like, oh, they found their voice again. Well, they went back to the well, and you could see that as a negative thing. I don't, because each and every one of these tones is something that they made a conscious decision to stop, so they didn't wear it out. Yeah. And it's also, they spend a lot of time kind of meandering and experimenting. And like, as we'll talk about, this album was kind of created with subconscious and eventual conscious knowledge that this would be the last thing they would do. They didn't want to go out on like a fuck up. Like we could try to push, new ground to make this like, a kind of a crazy last album, but instead we're going to do what we're exceedingly good at and actually just make something highly listenable, which I prefer to a failed experiment, after gotten my fill of failed experiments, from this band. So like, I'm really, really, I'm proud of these boys. Yeah.
Like reading the end of the book, reading about the production of this album, like watching interviews and stuff. Like it's kind of emotional, just like, wow, these guys got to do that.
Yep.
It is a very, very sweet and rare thing that the boys got to do.
Yeah. There have been a couple of things that they've, fucked up artistically over the course of, let's say, the past decade of coverage, that we did from, let's say, 2001 to this. However, they've never really made a lot of bad decisions about how they move as a band, right?
No.
Right. And, sticking the landing is so important here.
Well, they talk about it again in the book, but like, I love that, like, this band never, like, you don't listen to car commercials that have R.E.M. songs in them, like things like that. Like you don't, they don't show up on soundtracks for movies they're not interested in.
Right.
Things like that, which is like a principled kind of punk stance that, only goes so far. Like I don't begrudge anybody, like, the Shins, when they were like a super shitty band selling their their song to McDonald's, it doesn't bother me. Like, that allowed them a lot of creative freedom, you know?
Yeah.
R.E.M. was lucky enough not to have to do that and chose not to do it, even though it could add an extra zero to their, you know, their ridiculous bank accounts as is. And that's why I don't think they'll reunite, because they have more money than anyone. And they you know, they live like people.
Yep.
You know, they're not like, you know, buying dinosaurs and shit. They just it's you know, I can just imagine them being principled throughout, you know, and literally just throughout time, not just throughout their career.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. Very, very proud of them. So let's get into the album.
Yes. So the specter of their breakup is kind of hanging over this. I say specter for no great reason. It's not a bad thing, but like, they decided not to tour as they were coming up with the demos, when they were talking about it during Accelerate. They'd also been kind of toying with the idea of breaking up, especially because they had a contract renewal coming up. This would be the last album under the contract that Warner extended to them, I think, like way back in 1995.
It was their 5 album deals.
Yes,
is what they've done. So if this is the you know, the 10th album of that,
right?
So ever how many. So and that had their entire period that was a little bit like shifty. So they had to know at some point, like, if we renew, the record industry has changed and our cloud has changed to where, like, we're not going to come in on the same kind of thing.
No.
You know, we're not going to get the same kind of dollars we got when we first signed to Warner Brothers. We first renewed. It's just not going to be as big a deal. So I'm not saying that's purely motivated decision, but I'm sure it was on their mind.
Well, there's other stuff that comes with that too, like label attention and label backing to like get, you know, to get exposure to it. That is also important, you know, not just the advance.
Yeah, exactly. So they weren't going to get the same kind of care. Because of the situation they were in. As you mentioned, it's very intentional that they wanted to go out on an upswing, make this kind of wide-ranging album. But because they didn't tour, like, their final performance feels like an unscheduled thing.
Yeah.
It's on a tiny, tiny, tiny level, but my most serious band, the same thing happened. Oh, like, we didn't have an intentional, like, we didn't go out on our own terms or anything. Like, none of this, the good stuff of it happened, just the bad part. We didn't have a, like, hey, this is our last show, let's throw a big party. We just did a show and then the band fell apart.
Yeah.
And so there's like a show out there that, like, I will forever just be like, oh, that was our last show we played together. And like, it wasn't super great. You know, it was fine, but it wasn't like the kind of underline that I would want.
Right.
So the same thing kind of happened here, where the band had their final performance, and it feels, you know, it's more momentous than obviously than me and my buddies in the garage, but it's not, you know, it doesn't feel like the last R.E.M. concert.
No.
You know, like something like LCD Sound System did. You know, where like they like threw themselves a party pretty much.
Yeah, they put a bow on it.
Yeah. So this is their final public performance was March 11th, 2009, a tribute concert in New York at Carnegie Hall. And they had they finished the set with Ebo the Letter with Patti Smith.
Yeah.
Had Patti come up.
Yeah. Which that's cool. I like that both that performance and the last track on the album feature Patti Smith, because she was so integral in the band getting together.
Yeah,
you know,
even they actually like don't love the last track on this album. It's like one of the only songs I don't like, but I like that it has that kind of that kind of poetry to it.
There's a symmetry. Yeah,
agreed.
So when they were ramping up to this, they decided, hey, let's bring Jackknife Lee back, despite his goofy name, and you know, let's just have some fun with this. Like, Michael Stipe was sharing videos of the band in the studio on YouTube. Like at this point.
Yeah. It's you know, they're assured. Yeah, so they recorded all their instrumentals, and they recorded dozens of them at Jackpot exclamation point recording studio in Portland. And then eventually did some more at New Orleans and the Music Shed.
Yeah. New Orleans, importantly, because of all of the Katrina benefits that they had done.
Yeah. That is an area that's very close to their heart. And they ended, you know, speaking of kind of ending with that Patti Smith thing, kind of the rest of the sessions, and it feels like, you know, from documentary footage and interviews, like the most important stuff happened at this Hansatan studio in Berlin. They were very intentional about going to Berlin. This is the studio where like David Bowie did his Berlin trilogy. This is where Achtung Baby was recorded. Yeah. This is like, you know, a place of momentous music.
Yes.
Has happened.
Yeah. Fucking beautiful building too, if you look at that documentary.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. And I think Berlin is a place where they hadn't been, and recording in unique places or places that energize them is important to them as a unit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see some of the fingerprints of that. There are a few references to Berlin throughout the album, not just in New Berlin.
Yeah, the most obvious one.
Right. But yeah, like there is a 10-minute documentary with some interviews of the band members before they announced that they were breaking up. Like this was to promote the album itself, but you can see some of that in their performances.
Well, and that documentary, when you say performances, so it is a documentary. It has interviews and stuff, but they also played 6 of these songs live, just kind of for friends and people around, and that was the last private performance.
Yes.
Of R.E.M. And it's the only time these songs have been dusted off.
Mm-hmm.
Be performed live, and they're all fucking bangers in that live setting. Like it makes me very disappointed they didn't tour.
Yeah.
With this, because who knows if it would have been on my radar.
Oh yeah.
But I would have loved to see them tour behind this album because these songs all kind of pop off live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those will be in the notes. Definitely go check them out.
Yeah.
Also, during that Berlin stay, they just had a shitload of musicians who happened to be in town. So like, hey, let's clown car into this. Let's bring in Peaches. Let's bring in a guy from the Hidden Cameras, Joel Gibb. How about Eddie Vedder? And why not Patti Smith? Like just packing them in.
Yep. Yeah, they got the teachers of Peaches. Yeah. So, and then by the time they eventually got to Nashville to kind of finish things up, including kind of Frankenstein, the last song, Blue, which we'll talk about. Things got a little bit tense. Like they were kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
They were in, it felt like they were in danger of this becoming another Around the Sun with kind of endless mixing.
Yes. Because
they didn't really want it to finish. Like they were having a good time with this, and they were doing that, like, that breakup thing of just like, you know what, sometimes this is very good. Like, do I want to give this up?
Right. Yep. Which makes sense, but eventually they had to finish it. Even though they knew at that time, they knew when they were doing those live performances that they were going to finish up. Like the book goes to great lengths to describe them finishing up with Discoverer and like Michael Stipe breaking into tears after they did that, or like wiping tears away. I'm kind of getting goosebumps. So about the album itself, the title comes from a line in the final song. That last song, Blue, is more of like a poem than anything that Stipe reads. I'm not going to read the whole quote, but he's imagining, just telling a small child that he comes from a place, a faraway land called the 20th century. These are the things that we've learned. Here are the mistakes. Here you go. Yeah.
It's a great phrase. Like the idea of collapsing into now is a good, evocative kind of sentence.
Yes.
There. The cover has all 3 of the guys on the band on the cover, and Stipe has said like, "Oh, like I'm waving goodbye on the cover."
Yep.
And a thing that he says, like, he's like, "Oh, it's so obvious we were breaking up," and it's like, well, there's some dick move stuff with that we didn't really talk about, specifically not telling the other dudes in the band.
Yeah,
like they've always been this like weird unit within a unit kind of thing post Bill Berry.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel like during that documentary thing in the studio, there are a bunch of shots on is a Holstaple who's their
no, Holstaple's gone
a long
away.
Time ago. McCoffey, thank you. There's all these shots of McCoffey just like having a good time, smiling, and you can see him just being like, "This songs are gonna be so fun to play live. Like I'm gonna be an R.E.M. forever, guys." But like he's just having such a good time, and it's like, that I get it, but at the same time, like
communication,
kind of a dick move.
Yeah.
Like I could see having some hurt feelings about going through that whole process, not knowing.
Right.
But to Stipe, he's like, "Oh, it was obvious I left all these clues," and it's like, "Fucker, like you're not planning an escape room. Like, use your words, man."
Yeah. So yeah, and Mike Mills has even said that as well. Like, yeah, it's all over the lyrics. Like you can tell. Who knows how obvious any of these things are? Like, I devoid of context. If I just listen to this, that would really just feel like the output of a band that had been doing this for a while, and was kind of contemplating one kind of finality or another. It just happens to be that they had an intentional and agreeable version of that, as opposed to any of the other ones that might have been visited on, rock and roll artists who are getting up there in age.
It's also true that Stipe is always writing in terms of characters, and perspectives that aren't his. So like to all of a sudden be like, "Hey, you should take these things literally and be about R.E.M."
Right.
When he's kind of trained you to not do that.
Yeah.
His entire career is kind of, not intuitive.
Right. Yeah. So the album has two sides, the X-axis and the Y-axis. I have no idea what that has to do with Collapse into Now, but it's fine. They've done that duality thing.
Well, but they stopped for a couple albums too.
Oh yeah,
it was rough. Like there's not, it's not like a round side and the sun side, which would but they kind of stopped, so they're back doing that, which I'm glad they got back on that goof.
Yeah. Such a low stakes thing,
Yeah,
but it makes me happy.
Yeah. So the album did okay. Hit number 5 in the U.S., which is good, by U.S. standards.
Mm-hmm.
And the UK also number 5, which is bad by UK standards for R.E.M.
Mm-hmm.
But number 1 in Germany and Switzerland. So kind of middling performance, money wise, and middling critic wise.
Yeah, which is crazy to me.
I think so too. I think this is really strong. I think that and way less well received than Accelerate,
mm-hmm.
which to me is just it feels like a subject of like how reviews of a thing are just a crystallized opinion in time and have no sense of context.
Yeah.
And we get to do the show and we get to have all the context.
Right.
So we have this kind of, greater perspective than someone listening to a new record the day it comes out. Whereas I can see Accelerate making a stronger first impression.
Yeah.
I think this is a much better record.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, if people went back through, whenever this gets the 20-year anniversary reissue, whenever, who can even guess when 20 years from 2011 is? But whenever that happens, I think that history will be really kind to it.
Yes.
So, but yeah, in the time, kind of a collective shrug.
I wonder if that would have changed if they released the album and announced their split on the same day.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I just like the reviews, the idea that they're going back to a well. That complaint or that observation takes on a markedly different character depending on whether or not this is the end point or if this is just another line on the trend.
Yeah. And they probably didn't want people to know that.
Right.
Going into it, they probably would prefer it just be judged as a collection of songs.
Mm-hmm.
It'd
be a very mercenary way to try and do it. Hey, take it easy on us. We're not a band anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I can't imagine them doing that, but it does read differently knowing it's the end. And this is kind of the final lap and kind of revisiting a lot of these ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as this was happening, Peter Buck was playing with everybody,
mm-hmm.
of course, playing with Robin Hitchcock. He was on a Decemberist album called The King is Dead. Which is okay.
It's a Decemberist album, you know what you're getting.
I used to think that, and then they changed, and now I don't like them anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Their first couple of records, so they actually are not as static a band as I think they have credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But they did get less interesting as time got off. A lot of their rough edges got sanded off, not because of Peter Buck.
No,
but by the time Peter Buck came along, that process was well on its way.
Yeah.
And this is he's touring with the Baseball Project, which Mike Mills plays with sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think as well, which is songs about baseball. We talked about those guys a little bit, which I would go see if they are playing in Portland, probably.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, so he's still doing all this stuff. So all the kind of recording and stuff, he's not even batting an eye.
No.
I am a touring guitarist. I will never stop being a touring guitarist. I will go play on every album and be in a band that tours for my entire life.
Yeah, he left to tour with the Baseball Project, I think either the same day or the same week that that Collapse Into Now came out.
Yeah, he couldn't do any promotional stuff.
Right.
Mike Mills and Michael Stipe did all the promotional stuff and did this European press tour thing
mm-hmm.
where a lot of these interviews came from. Buck wasn't around for any of that.
No.
And people were questioning it. They're oh, there must be some bad blood. And Michael Stipe and Mike Mills were just no, that's Peter. He's still him. Again, the same way that when these things end, people think that everything literally changes. It's
mm-hmm.
no, we didn't die. We're the same people. We're just stopping this thing that you know us for. Yeah. Peter Buck's not going to change his fundamental selfness based on this.
Right. It's yes, R.E.M. is a big part of his life, but it's not his fucking identity. It's not like he gets hit on the head and wakes up and becomes a different person. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been diversifying for forever.
Yeah. And this is also when they released the Live from Dublin CD, around the same time.
Yes.
We mentioned it last time in the Accelerate episode, but that is very good. Get that and listen to it.
Yeah, it's fun to listen to because it's all super old stuff, and then Accelerate songs in kind of an intimate, unfinished setting.
Yep.
I'm sure that also didn't do. I mean, I know that didn't do super well either. Partly because they had been saturating the market with best ofs and live albums,
Right.
Which, like, again, taking the long view that we have, it makes tons of sense because, like, Warner Brothers is trying to make some money off this band that was putting out albums that weren't selling that well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this kind of ramp up in live and best ofs makes sense. Like, they will sell at least a little bit, and they're cheap to make.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those, and this is the last one that came out. Is very good. Yeah, and worth your time. R.E.M. HQ, the website and the Twitter account and stuff have been hyping it up, which has been fun because it's some kind of anniversary for that.
Oh wow.
As well, or it got reissued or something. But this maybe like a month ago, they have been really putting that out there.
Nice.
So yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get into it. There's not a lot of, again, that around town, like you can also see, this is me reading between the lines a little bit, but the fact that like we have less information, not just from the text we read, but also from internet research and looking things up online. You can kind of see Michael Stipe and Mike Mills retreating into a private life, even a little bit early.
Yes.
During this time, there's not a lot of other information other than just about making the album, but because there are no things to plan for because they have that pressure off. They have started becoming private citizens. Like I know Mike Mills like spent a lot of time traveling and catching up with his family.
Yep.
And now he complains about Trump and the Atlanta Braves, or talks about the Atlanta Braves and complains about Trump all day on Twitter.
Gosh, Millsy.
He at Millsy at Millsy. He quote replies anyone he's dunking on. Which I think is kind of a rude move, but I think is also very funny when I think of the good boy doing it.
Yep.
Just like so somebody will give him, and it's all typical. I'm not to. This is not a brag because it's a dumb way for me to spend my time, but like as like a 10th level invested in anti-Trump like social justice stuff. Like it's all pretty basic.
Right.
It's all pretty #resist like Keith Olbermann stuff. But so he's just dealing with people being like, hey, stick to the base, Poindexter. Like I come for the cool music opinions. I don't come for politics. And then just him like, surprisingly harshly dunking on these like pretty mild criticisms, that are all pretty basic, and just like, but quote replying them so like everybody sees it.
Yep.
I don't know if he doesn't know how to just reply, or like if he just doesn't care to,
or if he just like, all right, set phasers to full blast.
Yeah, fucking dominance wave from Millsy. It's a good Twitter.
Oh, it's so good, and like that isn't ironic. Both of us love Mike Mills. His Twitter is a pro follow because it is perfect and pure.
Yeah, it's perfect and pure, and just like knowing the context of who's doing it. Like every time he says "fuck," like, I'm way into it. Just like Mike Mills like, go fuck yourself. I'm like, oh my god. Like, just kind of how bad do you have to be to make the nicest person in the world tell you to go fuck yourself?
Well, he's the nicest person in the world, but he's also the person who would close down the bar. Like he would his nickname in Athens was Trouble. Because he would come around. His first exposure to the other guys, he was too drunk to play. Like, like he's got a real kind of like wild stripe to him, I
love it.
God.
Love it.
We should all be like Mills.
Yeah,
want to be like Mike.
Yeah, beyond to Mike. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
so like I said, we don't have as much information for that. We also have almost nothing in the way of B-sides and fan club stuff. Like we're not to that point yet, but like just again, the kind of closing ranks and just kind of not releasing that. So if they release dozens of instrumentals, like that stuff just doesn't exist.
Nope.
There's one B-side that's not a live thing. Their fan club even kind of slow, stop with the Christmas stuff. Like there's just here's us playing a couple tracks from Accelerate on a record if you're in the fan club. So like all that stuff ended pretty much.
Yeah.
Everything winded down, everything slowed down. It's not just the band. I mean, it is the band, but that band includes everything, I guess is what I mean.
Yeah. It's the whole apparatus.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's get started with the X-axis side, talking about Discoverer, the final opening track. Yeah, which is a song. So my friend Zach listens to this show.
He doesn't listen to most of the network because he doesn't care about video games. He listens to the show, and this is the show that the song he always cites from Clapton Now as being really great.
Yeah.
I like this song, but I don't think it is like I think it's pretty middling by standards of this album.
Yeah.
I think it is a little like it sounds really cool. It's like all production stuff that makes it sound neat, but it's so much of it is just literally one chord. Just kind of like going on it, and there's like really sparse percussion. It's like a really weird song.
Occasionally you'll get a boom.
Yeah, and the bass like kind of coming through and kind of like keeping the beat during during those one chord parts. It's a very weird song. And then it switches the pretty conventional kind of chorus thing.
Yeah. That one chord thing I think is a little bit set off by the kind of psychedelic lead guitar that's over that. But even that's pretty repetitive over the jangle. When it switches into the conventional side of it, I like the fact that they're switching between those modes. Yeah. Just because it's an early opening salvo or indication that they are not going to have these one note songs throughout this.
Yeah. Yeah, it still sounds neat. Like I like this song. I don't dislike it.
Like Stipe's vocal performance is really good. Like a lot of it is kind of talk singy. Outside of the choruses, but like he's singing with a lot of energy and a lot of like passion. Yeah. It's so the passion and stuff is good. The kind of melody stuff is good. I think when it gets into that chorus, chord progression. And this is, it's rare that I say this, and this is an arrogant sounding thing. I think that chord progression is a little pedestrian for me. The part I'm talking about, like when the chords start coming in, like that is, and usually like a real like, 5-1-4, yeah,
a kind of like 5-1-4 or like a real traditional chord progression won't get to me,
right.
But I think that is like it sounds like a very traditional kind of thing. To me.
Yeah. I like what it's set against. So, not that crazy about the chorus that is shouting Discoverer over again. It's cool when it comes back.
Yeah. So this is song. It's also too something we should talk about kind of in general terms, I think, is the where Michael Stipe is with his lyrics in this. Because he's kind of moved from, it feels like, even though there is like a prominent character song later, but he's kind of moved from characters to places.
Yes,
in his life and his his lyricism. So this is specifically New York.
And it's kind of worth remarking on, even if it's not remarkable, that he has moved away from these topics about the South. Like like R.E.M. has kind of become more of a New York and Seattle band at this point, by the subjects of their songs, right?
Yeah. And it's like I can dig a song about a place.
Yeah.
I think that there's probably placeness does not have as big an impact on me as a lot of people I know, just kind of in general. So it just ends up being a little bit like less interesting to me. I don't think that the lyrics of this are bad, and I like the idea of a discoverer. But there's not a whole lot to this. Like it feels slight to me lyric wise.
Yeah.
Just like he's walking around New York. He likes that you can find new stuff in New York, but there's not very many words in this. Like it's a lot of just like that shout, that kind of does it. So I like this song. I think it is, obviously better than anything around the sun, probably as good as anything on Accelerate to me, but it's not just the album sets a lot of real high highs after this, I think.
Yeah.
So, decent is what I term this opening. Like it definitely feels like a salvo, like it feels like a big rocker. So like, I get why you'd open with it.
Yeah. And in the grand pantheon of album openers, there are definitely stronger ones, but I think that this serves its purpose, right? And that is one half of the album opening song's job. The other half obviously being like a good and well-rounded song, but at least it makes its statement.
Yes. Yeah. Good song. Not great song to me. The video. So there's also with videos for this album. They made a video for every song. Yeah. There's actually more than I sent you initially. There's one for every song. I just didn't have them all at the same time. But because they are and some of them, there are multiple versions of them.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about like in detail every video, like, because a lot of them are pretty boring. Like it's one of these things where Michael Stipe decided to give all of his friends, hey, I know some like obscure Athens College filmmaker. What if I told him the idea? And the idea is like, what if someone was walking around near a river? And then, then they just show footage of that. Or like a lot of them are computer based. And this is very intentional. He talks about the making of the album in an interview, and it has this bit I really like where he says like, Michael Stipe is a really smart person, I think. And he talks about how albums have changed and the way that people listen to music has changed. And he's pretty much talking about the end of the album and the end of the active listening experience.
Yeah.
And he talks about doing these YouTubes for all of these and kind of making the songs a little bit piecemeal. So it's like something you can listen to on your commute or watch on your phone on the bus.
Yep.
Or something like that. And I think that comes across musically, and that's something that speaks to me. Like I like that kind of variety. And two, it means there are kind of boring videos for most of these songs.
Right. So
some of the videos are less boring than others, but not super great.
Yeah. So there's lots of them. There is a high noise to signal ratio to it.
Yeah.
But it does show, again, them making a good decision as a group that even with their final act, they're going to try to update and be contemporary and make an approach that is actually, accommodating of and respectful to the listener.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is this video is mostly like vector screen stuff, which I think is cool. Love a vector display. But yeah, it's a lot of fast moving text and motion graphics and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of computer stuff. They experimented with that a bit on Accelerate.
Yeah.
As well. This kind of very digital kind of video stuff, as opposed to kind of like concept or film, kind of more filmic kind of things. Second track, All the Best. This is the one where he says, it should be obvious that we were ending the band.
Right.
And if you read the story or if you read the lyrics, it does seem pretty obvious, but only really in retrospect.
Yeah. I think I'll sing and rhyme, give it one more time. I'll show the kids how to do it. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Like,
yep.
Yep. Okay.
The beginning talks about being in a church, like this kind of Quasimodo thing, which is, obviously for show in that church. It is fairly obvious.
Yeah.
But there's not, again, like not a lot to these lyrics. Like if there's a member of the band that's kind of running out of gas, like it might be Stipe. Where like his performances are very good, but one of the common things in the lyrics of this is they're either like very direct in a way that works or very direct in a way that works less.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sophistication missing.
Yeah. Something that's also worth bringing up is we're kind of returning along with those more vague or more, let's just say middling lyrics like we might have gotten in the middle of the 80s or so. We're getting back to Michael Stipe sinking back into the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah. So, again, a return to form. Who knows how intentional that was, but I'm down with it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So this stuff doesn't really stand out. And so it doesn't, you don't necessarily need to have as much emphasis on the literal meaning of the words.
You don't have to have something like in Everybody Hurts, where like it is entirely about hitting somebody over the head with that, with that Aesop, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This song does not stick out over Discoverer for me. Like they will do that kind of like on Life's Church Pageant, where they have begin and then whatever it is after that. Get Up, I think.
These days.
Get Up's
on Green, my friend.
Fuck me.
These days is so good.
These days is very good.
Yeah. Whatever it is on the second song of Life's Church Pageant.
Sorry, man. I forgot.
Fuck yourself.
No, I know that was a disagreement. That I did not.
At M. Millsy, will you tell at Cole Ross to go fuck himself in a quote tweet?
Oh my
Signed.
God. Oh my God. If Mike Mills told me to go fuck myself.
Yeah. Like that would be I was positioning that as like a mean thing, but it would be the nicest thing I've ever done for you. And like our friendship that has like I've done nice things for you, so it would be judging on that curve.
Yep.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did not forget the name of that to disrespect you. I listen to that album all the time. I just forgot. I got those two mixed up. But no, they will open with kind of similar songs.
It is a more conventional song in comparison to Discover, and just like These Days is more conventional in comparison to Begin. So I can see that comparison.
Yeah.
This to me feels like an Accelerate track.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like it's not like it would be a fine Accelerate track.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, and when I think that when I tried to listen to this before, I talk about how the album didn't quite get its hooks into me. It's not like I'd never listened to it. It just didn't stand out. And part of it, I think, is these first 2 songs.
Yeah.
That are a little too Accelerate-y and a little bit too like just a little middling for me. Like I don't mind All the Best. Like I think this is a good song.
Yeah.
It's just not a great song.
To be perfectly clear, there's not a skipper on this album for me.
Yeah, I can listen to this front to back.
Yeah,
no problem. There's a couple songs I like a little bit less, but I don't need to skip them. They're not like, annoying.
Yeah, they're not objectionable to me.
Yeah, exactly. But this feels a little bit middle of the road, and it's kind of a weird choice for the opening. But what it does mean is that the rest of side A is pretty great.
Yep.
And then it means we don't have like the side B let down.
Mm-hmm.
That you sometimes get with R.E.M. is that like kind of have these songs I think are like solid Bs early on, and they save a lot of their A material for a little bit later. So the album ends up being pretty balanced out. And All of the Best is also a song that I like a little bit better knowing that it's a goodbye.
Yeah.
Like showing the kids how to do it fine. I like that as like fine is a good word for that. Like, okay. I like that it's not it's not self-aggrandizing.
Show them how to do it right would be a shittier way to put that.
Totally. But like, do it like I like that I end up liking the lyrics to this, even though again, there's not very many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot of like kind of repetition. It's a lot of kind of empty words, empty lyrics.
Yeah.
As we talked about. So
yeah.
Not bad. I think the album kicks in with the third track, and I think the first single, I think, or it tied. It depends on where it was.
Yeah. They put them out differently. I think here Uberlin was a little bit later.
Yeah, this is the European first single. Discoverer was the first single in the United States, I think.
Yeah. But you're right. Like third track is where you hide the gold. I fucking love Uberlin.
Uberlin's really good.
This is so goddamn good, Gary.
Yeah.
It's so understated, so beautiful. I love the lyrical content of this about just kind of being in the routine, having this just I'm gonna make it through the day till it becomes the night, and then I'll get through the night too. Trying to get beyond that. This is hummable. How long has it been since an R.E.M. song has been hummable?
Yeah, it's really catchy. And it has the big soaring chorus that I've been missing.
Yeah.
That doesn't come up. So, but it's also got catchy verses. Like this is not the just 2 chords, verse as afterthought kind of thing that we see so often. I love that kind of mundanity to the lyric. I like that it is about a place, but not directly. It's like about the people who will be in it. And I think that like when you get into the chorus of this, which the lyrical content feels kind of like a shitty Moby song to me, it's just sold by that kind of like big sweeping melody. That like I'm flying on a star into a meteor, thing. Like that sounds like it's going to be, I don't know.
It sounds pretty cheesy, It
sounds cheesy.
Yeah.
But which a lot of this stuff is. But then when, with the like later when they do like the approximate rhyme with like 1,000 and astounding, things like that, where it's like, that's a much better, more understated lyric.
Yeah.
That works a lot stronger.
Yeah.
Even though like the things like this like super like dumb portmanteau that is the title that we haven't really addressed.
Oh, that is it is exactly a product of Mills. Mills has a quote saying like, used to be in the 50s. You said cool or whatever, like Uber's the way the kids on the net say cool now. And it's kind of strange that nobody's made that pun yet. Okay.
Yep, there you go. In the wake of Uber, the car service,
it's hard.
It makes it way worse. Yeah, it is. Mills could not have predicted.
No, it's not. It's not his fault.
Yeah, not his fault. But this is very good.
Yeah,
this is a great song.
I'm even willing to take the I'm flying on a star into a meteor tonight, like in direct contrast to like, hey, take your pills.
Yeah.
Is setting up the contrast. Also, this is directly talking to somebody. Like this is doing that thing we love about R.E.M. albums where it is one side of a conversation. Yeah.
Because there's kind of lyrics, there are, or like dialogue rather, that come up part of it. And when you say it's a contrast, like I think it is, I know what you mean, but to like specify it further, it's drawing the comparison. Like it's saying like, hey, here's this amazing thing in the chorus. Going through the city, there's 1,000 million people. It's taking this mundanity and kind of like trying to draw that comparison to the kind of bigness of living in this amazing city. Really, really good. Like this, really great song.
Yeah. It's also understated in its complexity when it brings in after the first chorus the organ and synth. And even the stuff that is happening with the percussion. Like this is not a mid-tempo song. This is actually pretty up there in terms of like actually having a beat to it, which you don't notice. Also, this is done in, I'm sorry to keep just like dropping facts, but I love the song a lot. It's a different guitar tuning, which is something they don't often do. This is D standard. So like that kind of moody tone that you get in the guitar line is set off by the fact that like he's playing these regular chords, but in a different lower kind of like
sound. Arrangement, different kind of fingering and stuff. It definitely has an interesting sound to it that it wouldn't ordinarily have. It does have one thing, and this is songwriting nerd complaint. This album does have a problem with like kind of bland, nonsensical middle eights, like bridges between the second chorus and third verse. They kind of come through, and this song is no different. Like it's harder for me to think of songs that don't have that problem on this album than ones that do.
Right.
Like it keeps coming up. So it's like there's a middle eight part of this that doesn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it sounds like he's using an EBow.
It's like a tremolo picked octaves is what he's doing.
It's not a solo because there's not a lot of movement or melody to it.
Right.
It's kind of just like weird swells over different chords.
Yeah, it's like mid neck electric fuzz that is strummed very quickly to make it sound like it is a continuous sound. Yeah.
Which is like it's kind of neat, but it's also those parts of this album feel mildly underwritten to me.
Yeah.
But this is a great song. That's a quibble. That's me coming up with something like I had to.
Yeah. The video for this is fun too. It's got Aaron Johnson.
Well, there's two because there's two for all of these things. There's one that's not fun. I'm sorry. This is my fault because I send those links and I didn't find this out until later. There's one that's just a map of the Berlin subway system with the lyrics to it. That was the first one they released, and it's pretty bland digital R.E.M video. But then there's this other fun one that you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So it's got Aaron Johnson, Kick-Ass, and the Bad Quicksilver dancing around in London, dancing to a song that you would not immediately think is danceable. Guy's got moves.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Really, really good, really great song. Great single as well. Yes. Like this makes way more sense to me than Discover as a single. Like there's a beat to it. It sounds like a band. Really, really great song. Next up, Oh My Heart. This is a sequel song. It's also out of place, which are two things I don't like. I fucking love this song.
This is very good.
It is dumb how much I love this song because it's like
that chorus, man.
Whatever is happening with the harmonies in the chorus is just like really special.
Yeah, well, it's a little sloppy.
In this fucking song.
It's a little slight. It feels like somebody is like just a slight beat behind on the other side of the room.
Yeah, and watching them play it live, like you can kind of see what they think it is versus how it kind of articulates when everything's flattened. To one sound. Like you get to see kind of Mike Mills like finish the harmony after Michael Stipe.
Yeah.
So that's all intentional, and just the sound it makes is just like super, super good. Super cool. So this is a sequel to Houston.
Right. It should be noted, we recorded the previous episode about Accelerate before the Houston Hurricane Harvey.
Yes. So if you're wondering why we didn't draw those very obvious comparisons,
right,
and talk about that is why.
Right. Just to put a pin on it. But yes, this is the same character coming back to New Orleans after having spent their time in Houston, specifically coming home to a city half erased to New Orleans.
Kind of seeing the things that have changed, seeing the things that haven't. The specifics of this song, I don't really care about in a weird way, because it's like it's just these weird little like universal statements that I feel like just apply to a lot of things that like get me, and then just delivery.
Yeah.
So like the fact that it's about New Orleans doesn't do very much for me, but like saying like this place is the beat of my heart is a good lyric to me.
Especially the way it's delivered with the bass drum on it. This place is the beat of my heart.
Yeah, like the arrangement of the words and everything is just very, very special.
Mm-hmm.
The instrumentation's real weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like really, really prominent accordion. There's kind of mandolin in it. And it does a little bit of that, like the verses seem like they're going to fall into the bland R.E.M. verse thing, but the bass moves really good. There's like a bass kind of kick up,
boom,
like walk up that happens during it that like keeps it moving.
Yeah.
Super, super good.
Yeah. Very good. I just love that. I love that notion of, oh, this place is the beat of my heart, because like being proud of where you're from, meh. Being proud of the city where you choose to live. Like again, it's the family you choose, not the family you're born with, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like all of that feels very good. This feels incredibly earnest. Like this is heartfelt, and I don't use that as a pun or whatever. Yeah.
No, it is. A lot of it is in the delivery that kind of carries some of that feeling, because like, songs about where you're from or where you choose to be, or songs about city are kind of a cliche. Like this just feels like he feels it.
Yeah.
Really, really strong. Just really, really sweet. Like sweet, good song. Really fun to sing along with, because during the chorus, you can kind of jump between a lot of different melodies that are going on. Like the chorus is very impressive to me.
Yeah.
On this song.
So simple, but it's so good.
Yeah. Really, really good.
Yeah. Moving on to It Happened Today. I don't think the video for that is really worth talking about. It's just footage of a city. But
for Oh My Heart, you mean?
Yeah, for Oh My Heart. Moving on to It Happened Today. This is another kind of acoustic jam. It's got that boomy drum to it. I want to know how they recorded that to make it come across like that, because it does not feel of a piece with the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's a weird. Well, it's that jackknife thing. Like they just set it. It doesn't. They set up every time they record a song. So, it would. They wanted to go for that. I think it's more like the drums sound the same in most songs. That's the weird. The weird part for their method.
Yeah.
This is and this underwent a lot of work. There's references to a much heavier, kind of more rocking version of this.
Yes.
That exists.
It's hard to imagine a rocking song that has hooray in it.
It's very, unless it was like the Michael Stipe sneer, the sonic sneer of him saying hooray would have done it. But like other than that, it wouldn't be the same song at all. This is like a weird song that I think is kind of it's catchy. Again, we got our catchy verses again.
It's catchy and it's pretty.
Yeah. And it has this ending. So like I always forget how much I like the song in the beginning of it, because I think the chorus is a little limp.
Yeah.
Is not particularly good, but it ends with this huge section of Oz that makes me think of like mid-late period of New Pornographers, like the Bleeding Heart Show. It sounds like that, like this huge, and they hid Eddie Vedder in there, and it doesn't suck. Like
they laundered Vedder.
Yeah, that's Vedder laundering system. Where like he just sounds like another part of the chorus. It doesn't sound like Eddie Vedder doing Eddie Vedder shit,
right?
So like it's this big thing with like, I think this is where the Camera Obscura guy or whatever was in it. And they don't sound like, they're character actors in this. They're not rising to prominence. So that bridge, that op part is just like really beautiful and good.
Yeah, it kind of like makes my heart catch in my throat a little bit when I hear it, especially like if I'm listening to it in the car and it's real loud. It'll kind of pick you up and take you away with it. Yeah.
Really reminds me of the Bleeding Heart Show. Like it is, this feels like a New Pornographer song to me.
Yeah.
Other than, that It Happened Today, hooray, hooray. It happened, hip hop, hooray. Or hip hop, hooray. He doesn't switch into hip hop, hooray. Like,
no.
The KRS-One just pushes Eddie Vedder out of the way. And it's like, let me show you something.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I completely forgot. I wish so. The It Happened Today, hooray, hooray! Like I wish there was more enthusiasm to that in in the delivery, because like the verses are very much like a New Test Leper kind of feel. It's almost like a narration on it. Very clean sounding. He gets to that, he just kind of like limply, it happened today, hooray, hooray. You have Millsy in the background, kind of picking up the hooray. But there's not a lot of blood to it, which again stands in stark contrast to the Oz.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the lyrics, like it does have that opening couplet. As again, I'm always going to be here for meta things. Mm-hmm. Like he's describing the song. Mm-hmm. This is not a parable. This is a terrible thing. This is not a lesson. This is a real thing. But then there's, feels like there are almost no words in the song. So I don't really know what he's talking about.
I don't know what the lesson is.
Yeah. What is the terrible thing that happened? I wasn't going to think it was a parable. I don't think it's anything. It's like there's like 9 lyrics to this song. So, kind of underwritten lyric wise, but real fun wise.
The video for this is one that is more well put together. It's not very art fucky. Like there's a story to it.
Yeah. It's so there's a kid kind of waking up on a snowy day, goes outside and it's color, and eventually digs through a dumpster. But it's kind of an extended version of the song.
Yeah.
As well, which they talk about in the recording as well, to like one point where they mix everything down and there's just I think there's just better. Mm-hmm. At some point.
Yeah. It's when they're about to pick back up, like it goes silent for a while. And then it's just better before they swell in with more Oz as he lights a fake he lights a fake flower on fire and uses that as a torch in the woods.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. There are more Oz, and every day is yours to win, which feels redundant when paired with It Happened Today a little bit to me.
Yeah, this is some bad sequencing.
Yeah.
Like I don't love this song anyway. Mm-hmm. But I definitely don't like it that much on the wake of It Happened Today. So this is and also this has some real kind of around the sun-esque verses going on here, like and the walk and the talk, like it's got this ponderousness to it that just is kind of slow paced.
Yeah, and there's no vigor to it really at all, which could be fine, but everything is really locked in to this arpeggio that's going along, and it doesn't help that Stipe's vocals have this delay on them, which I think he might be delivering slowly to let that delay land on the next beat or whatever
on the
it's
right
set to.
Beat,
yeah. Which I don't know. Maybe don't do the delay.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like if they didn't do the delay, though, this is one of the songs I think on the album that is kind of painfully slow paced.
Yeah,
which doesn't happen that much on this record. Which is it says it's all over the place, but a lot of the songs are a little bit much quicker than like Up, Reveal, Automatic,
right.
That era. So it felt like they needed something to add some texture and interest to the song if pace wasn't going to do it. Or tempo wasn't going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I would say like get rid of the delay and make it quicker. But that's Monday morning quarterbacking. Who knows how valuable that actually is?
I mean, I might. Yeah. I wonder what those other dozens of instrumentals sounded like to me. Like this is one of the songs on the album. Again, I don't have to skip it. Like nothing is offensive.
Right.
But it's not. It's definitely in like the bottom half of songs on this album, I think.
Yep. And even though it's slow, it moves quick. Like everything on this album, there's only I think 2 songs that go above 4 minutes.
Yeah, they're pretty short.
Yeah, one of which is Uberlin, which is amazing, and then Blue, which is nearly 6.
Yeah, and Blue is indulgent.
Yes,
which we'll get to. Like that length test is an element of indulgence that I'll allow them because it's their way out.
Yeah.
This is the end of the X-Axis side. Wouldn't have been my choice for the ending. Like this side would have worked a lot better with some sequencing. Like stuff something between Discover and All the Bus, stuff something between It Happened Today and Every Day Is Yours to Win.
Yeah.
As it is, it kind of makes a hill for me. Mm-hmm. It's like Uberlin and Oh My Heart are really astounding, and then the other sides are not as much. Second side, though, is also really strong, which doesn't always happen with R.E.M.
Right.
Which starts off with another, I think in some areas, a lead single, if not like a second single.
Right.
And to me, out of songs on this album, this and Uberlin would be the obvious ones, obvious singles.
Yes.
This is Mine Smell Like Honey, which might be the worst title.
It's really bad.
It makes me embarrassed to want to to have somebody look over my shoulder and see I'm listening to it. I think it's a really good song. I think this is really catchy and like this is a great pop song. Mm-hmm. But it's it's got that embarrassing title. And even the lyrics aren't even that bad, except for when he's saying "Mine smell like honey."
Like honey.
Yeah, like that part's embarrassing, but all the rest of it's really good.
Yeah, like when he gets into the actual chorus, the dig a hole, dig it deeper, deeper is really good. Yeah, it's just that "Mine smell like honey"
Mills is doing during that chorus, man. That dig a hole, like that is like classic. You know, it's just really, really good.
Yeah. So "Mine smell like honey." It sounds like they're comparing their farts. Is what I always imagine. Like I don't know what.
Yeah, track a trail of honey through it all. So like, you know, you're following whatever it is of his that smell like honey.
Yeah.
Also, does honey have like a particularly strong smell?
That smells sweet.
Like I smell honey and I don't smell that much. I don't think of honey as like a pungent thing. I think it is like a tasting thing.
Yeah.
And mine tastes like honey. Like that's still a little weird, but he could be. Then it doesn't feel like he's talking about farts or poops.
Well, it might be his balls.
It could. Well, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm like legitimately okay with calling a trail of his balls through the yard.
I'm not offended by it. It's just
It's just like what would that mean? You know, then it would have been like a thing people say. You know, it feels like it's like, you know, somebody thinks they're, you know, there's that, you know, that Outkast song, Roses.
No, I don't.
They have a saying where they have a song where it's about this basic idea where it's like, you know, you think your shit don't stink, but your poo poo smells like roses or something.
Yeah.
And it's a good song except for the fact that he says like poo poo smells like roses, and I can't handle it. Like it makes me not like the song.
Right.
I don't know if this is just another expression of like, you know, Gary Prude, but like I don't like people writing about you know, their literal shits and stuff. Like we talk about it all the time. Like we've more or less made a career out of it, but I just like in a song, it makes it different to me. I don't know.
In a song, it feels in kind of entombed or put up on a pillar in a way.
Yeah.
Because like you at several points you could have stopped, whereas we obviously can't stop ourselves.
Well, and like me and you talking about piss, like that feels like, I mean, that's a standard, like, you know, that's the idea of that is comedy, right? Like not to ascribe a value to it, but like that's a comedy thing. It's a different context than a song.
Right.
You know, a song just has another kind of like we're doing that for jokes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're talking about our piss, or if we were talking about our fart smelling like honey on a weird Monster My podcast like digression, like that's one thing.
Yeah.
You know, but we're not like writing. This is like kind of like, you know, songs always feel a little bit like they're supposed to be heartfelt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unless they are explicitly not.
Right.
You know, explicitly funny, but there's like the music is serious, the drums are serious, the vocal performance is serious, and then the song having lyrics about fart smelling good is just like very, very like undercuts a song that I think is like actually really pretty good.
It is, yeah. It feels a little bit like there's an environmental thing to it. Is what I'm reading into it. It's very abstract.
Yeah.
Yeah. To take the title chat away from something prurient, because, you know, I didn't mean to take us down fart lane.
Well, he took us down. Stapey took us down fart lane.
I don't know if there's anything in his text that says farts. I will jump on that grenade and claim it as just part of my character flaws.
So I would think the reason why I say farts or shit is because I'm thinking it's like that, you know, you think your shit smells like roses.
Right. Okay.
That's what it seems like it's referencing.
He has another song that has honey in it. And the title, and like I associate the two when they couldn't have anything less to do with each other.
Yeah. Like it'd be if he's talking about farts and me and honey, that's very weird.
Yeah,
because Kate Pearson gets in on that, and like that seems impure and bad to me.
Natalie, no.
But this is again huge soaring chorus that kind of makes it. You know, this is what I'm missing in R.E.M. These big choruses. I think the video is real fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty goofy, but it's like Michael Stipe with these people like who are kind of dressed like, you know, in black, like stage hands, manipulating him up some stairs.
Yeah, they're Weekend at Bernie's him up some stairs and setting him down on a comfortable chair.
Yeah, I think this is kind of fun and cute.
Yeah.
So pretty good, and I think like, you know, again, an obvious choice for a single, like that big catching chorus, like
it's fun to listen to.
Classic.
It's you know, they have maintained the fun, I think, of some of the stuff from Accelerate, but they've brought some art to it.
Yeah. The next song is one I also like quite a bit.
So good.
A song called "Walk It Back," which seems like it is going to be like on paper, like not something I would like. But I think it's actually really good.
Yeah. It's based around a piano. Like this is a Mills joint. Like he would break this out wherever there was a piano during the recording. Like, hey, let's get drunk and I'll just play this awesome, rock and roll ballad hook.
Like really simple.
Yeah.
Like,
dun, 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 dun.
Like it's a 4-note melody.
Yeah.
To this, just moving up like that first chord, dun dun, and then up to the second chord. It just has a really slight walk up. But I think that is kind of elevated by like a weird thing. This doesn't sound like something I would say, but I think it's kind of elevated by the repetition.
Yep.
To it, and kind of where the lyrics fall on it. I think the song would not be so good if it was like he's saying, you've got to walk it back, or along to the piano.
Yeah.
But the fact that the vocal kind of does the exhale or does the walk down.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's picking up that melody and taking it to a conclusion. Like he's putting the chorus or putting the repetition in the spaces between.
Yeah. So it has that thing where an instrument starts a melody and a vocal finishes it, which I really like. It's very repetitive and very kind of slow, and a lot of things that I don't always value, but I think the song actually is really good in spite of it.
Yeah. I'm way into it. It's very good. The lyrics are pretty basic, but you get a sense of the mood, and I think that the mood on this album is very strong.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's one idea, but I think it's pretty relatable.
Yeah.
There's something with relationships where you can't take anything back and you can't move backwards. And the idea of questioning that I think is relatable. You can't. There's no way to go back.
Right. Have you ever had anybody tell you or ask you in seriousness to take it back? Like something you said, or something, just take it back.
No, I mean, not since I was like a little tiny kid.
Okay.
It seems like the kind of thing somebody would say to me like on a playground.
Yeah.
If I called someone a dork, they'd be like, take that back. And then when you eventually get old enough to realize that's not a thing.
Right.
There's no such thing as that. And even if somebody did say they take it back, then like it's still out there. There's no, can't put sausage, make a pig. But it's that kind of wanting to be able to like, again, slow it down. Like, let's start over, Yeah. It's kind of related and matches the resignation that kind of comes through in the vocals.
Yeah. Next one here is alligator _aviator _autopilot _antimatter _watch _dogs.
Yeah.
No, it's just alligator
_2. _hat _pre-order. Yeah. This is the Peaches song.
Yeah, this is so dumb. I like it a lot.
I'm not super into this one.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the ones I think is a little Sonic the Hedgehog for me.
Oh.
During the the spitting out words part.
Yeah.
Not the singy part.
Yeah.
I know Stipe likes it, and I don't think it's, again, there are no tracks in this album I feel like I need to skip.
Yeah.
But it is it's not my fave.
Yeah. I feel like this is coming at the blasted wasteland of I'm going to DJ at the end of the world from a better angle and doesn't go as far. And like gets me just enough of that cockiness that I can be down with it. And it's incredibly absurd. The fact that it opens up with I feel like an alligator climbing up the escalator. I feel strong. Like, okay. There you go. Like
lots of rhymes.
Yeah,
going on here. I'm not a hater. Hater here.
the hater
okay,
hater.
Old man.
Okay. The hater thing is ridiculous. Hater should be taken away from everybody. Our fucking president is tweeting about haters.
Yeah, I hate that word. I hate everything that it means. I hate every context behind it.
Are you Amy from Amy's Baking Company? Like, shut the fuck up.
Stipe talks about this in the book about how he like struggled forever on this chorus, and we did it. He's like, "Oh, that's not a good chorus. That's a great chorus." And then I listened to it again after reading that, and I was like, "Oh man, like you realize like there's this is the one that you're calling out as the great chorus. It's so slight.
Yeah,
like that. Like, hey, alligator, you've got a lot to learn. Like it's fine. It's good.
Yeah,
but
it's
like just being like
being
like, oh man, this is some of my finest work. I think is just bonkers.
Yeah. He also liked I'm Gonna DJ. Like
he loves
hard.
I'm Gonna DJ.
It's hard to take it serious. Yeah.
Yeah. Stipe's kind of like overtures to young people when he's being trying to fit in with them.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. I think that I would like this song a lot more. I think that the little break, the spoken word Peaches break, really bugs me.
Oh.
I don't, I'm not like, I'm fine with the Teaches of Peaches. Like, I think that, that's all fine, but there's something about just like this, break where her just kind of speaks singing some things. Like, I don't know. It doesn't, that part doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit more positive on the Teaches of Peaches, than you are, possibly. I feel
You're
like
always doing the Preaches of Peaches. So.
Yep. No. I just I'm fine with it. It feels again, it adds to that variety. Like they're making something that would have been at place in at home in a different album, right? And Peaches is a good match for Stipe's sensibilities, I think, too.
Yeah. So. Now, there's a thing in the book where it talks about how her kind of shouting along in the chorus makes something that sounds like approaches a harmony. Yeah. And I think that's probably a good way to put it. Yeah. I think it's just kind of the barking over the riff parts, that are less good, but the chorus is good. There are parts of this that I like.
Yeah.
But it does, I think that you're right with a variety. Like this does feel like this album's nod to something like I'm Gonna DJ, and it is much better.
Yes.
Than I'm Gonna DJ.
Much more successful.
I think so too.
Yeah. It almost feels, Heaven Forfend, it feels a little bit monstery to me.
Yeah. That's probably, that makes sense. Monster with like, they would do, like some kind of treatment on the vocals and it would just be him. But, this could, like, other than that, like this could definitely be a little bit of a Monster song. Mm-hmm. I think it is fine. Yeah. Like it's a middle, but not bad by any means for me.
The video for this is fun. It's Stipe and Peaches. I think they're in Berlin. It doesn't look like an American city to me, but they're in weird costumes, just looking completely over it, like walking around. And there's an awful lot of like quick cuts of them there and then not being there. Peaches, her look is really striking to me. And that's her whole deal. But yeah, it works pretty well for the song to me. Yeah,
it's fun. It is definitely a fun video. Pretty good. Next up is That Someone Is You. I love this song as well. This is one of my favorite songs of the album. It's a minute and 50 seconds. So and it doesn't do a middle eight and it doesn't do a third verse. Right. It's the only song on the album that doesn't do that. Yeah. So it verse, chorus, end. Yeah. Which I'm way into. Watching them play it in that live thing. Yep. Sorry about the vacuum that's coming through for people who are listening. My upstairs, my landlords have their house cleaner over, so I thank you for your grace if that's coming through. But when they play it live, you can see them almost like struggling to play it that quick. Yeah. Like it's so fast. And it's one of the only times they've done like a straight up kind of punk song like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good. And,
it is a good kind of like pop punk song about this kind of. It sounds very innocent to me, honestly. Yeah. The because it is like the words are very like a simple story, but again about a very relatable feeling. Like the simplification of Stipe continues. So there's not tons of sophistication where he would maybe tell this through metaphor. Mm-hmm. On an earlier album, here it is just him at a party. Where bands are playing like young, cool, hip bands to reference. Yep. Again, just waiting for someone to make the first move. And then when they get the chorus of this, where he's, that someone is you, you're worried for a second because he kind of barks it. Yep. As like, Barky Stipe, like always is the cousin to Sonic Stipe. They live in the same neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah, they're neighbors. But when they get, the lyric, and it's one of my favorite lyrics in the band's career, is pull me out of cartoon quicksand, pull me up and out of me, as a thing that someone can do to you or for you, is one of my all-time favorite expressions of an idea that this band has done. Yeah. And then again, huge Mills soaring chorus. Mm-hmm. And that melody, those chords are pretty simple, that's over, but the melody is really good.
Yeah. I mean, they take it and they elevate it.
Yeah. It's just, just really up there, the chorus of this is so good, and I love those words. Mm-hmm.
And you took the words out of my mouth. I love that idea. somebody who, will take you out of yourself. Like this feels like a song about that wonderful breaking of introversion and comfort.
Yeah. Really, really like strong to me. Like I love this song.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Again, short, slight, but they just don't do a lot of that. Like there aren't very many minute 50-second song R.E.M. songs that aren't like underneath the bunker,
right.
that aren't kind of like experiments.
Yeah.
Like this just feels like, like a different band until you get to the chorus.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is R.E.M. Like
it's shorter than Houston, but it moves and it feels complete. It doesn't feel like it like is left unfinished. It's just kind of compact and serves its purpose and gets out.
Yeah. Really, really good. One of my favorite songs on the album for being as slight as it is. I just think it is really well constructed.
Yeah.
And good. Next up, Me, Marlon Brando, and I.
Unpack that.
Yeah.
The mandolin's back, baby.
It is. The mandolin shows up on here. A little bit of that kind of like storytelling, a little bit more complicated kind of lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of that are going on here than we've been having. I think that this the beginning of it always feels like it's going to be boring to me.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the chorus, and the chorus I think is actually like really good and lush.
Yeah. The chorus opens up, and it again is this very simple kind of lyrical approach to it. Let me down, down, down.
Yeah.
And then help me, take me deep again. Like this feels heartfelt in a huge way, even though there's not an awful lot going on in the actual kind of poetic content of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated. There's like dialogue in it and everything, but it's more, it's a little abstract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would normally reject a song written by a storied musician about their own fame or their own accomplishment. That's very much what this feels like. And maybe it's because I've been on this journey with them. I'm willing to go along with it. Like it actually does feel, it feels right.
Yeah. He's there's a little bit of irony, like where he's trying to undercut.
Yeah.
His presence. Like he's still
this photo has been retouched.
Yeah. Like recognizing it a little bit more than I would, but still, I'm not sure where I'd place myself. Like I might pawn those gold rings instead.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still kind of like setting himself up as lesser, not comparing himself to Marlon Brando, but like, it is, I think that like the other thing that put me off this before I really listened to it is the title I think is annoying.
Yeah.
It works during the chorus.
Yes.
When he sings it, but as a title, like on paper, I find it annoying.
Yeah.
There's 2 commas. Like, I don't know. It's just like looks annoying to me.
Yeah.
But
no, but this is good, and it's good to hear them break out the mandolin. Like that is the prominent instrument on this track. It's very somber. Like this does feel like it comes from, the automatic era, but it moves and it has, I think, blood in it. Unlike some stuff from that. Yeah.
Pretty good. Again, very lush, very pretty.
Yep.
I wish I could say that this album ended on a really great note. For me, it doesn't. For me, ends with a song called Blue, which I think would be good and fine in a world without country feedback and Ebo the Letter.
Yeah, it feels like if there's anything they can be accused of, like, oh, you've just totally done that trick before, it's here.
They're literally doing it.
Yep.
Like it is like the same chords as country feedback, or at least very similar, if not exactly the same.
Like both of those are explicitly Neil Youngy.
Yeah. I mean, but sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it is explicitly it sounds exactly the same. It's got these kind of like poetic lyrics, and then Patti Smith coming in to sing a refrain like they did on Ebo. I don't think any of the parts of her are as strong as Ebo. Like Ebo is like a written song. This was literally born of a jam.
Mm-hmm. It was born out of a dare. They went back to the studio. Peter Buck is like, "Oh, Jackknife, you won't be able to play that musical saw."
Yeah, you can't hit a note, and then he plays a musical saw, which is, a little bit self-indulgent anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think this works at all. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I would even liked it more as like an instrumental, or something like that without the poetry over it. Like I don't know what would have done it.
Yeah,
other than just it being a totally different thing.
like Country Feedback and like Ebo, I'm way into the lyrical content of this, lyrics and quotes, because he's literally speaking it. It sounds like he's speaking it into a Walkman,
like a talk
recorder
boy
kind of thing. Yeah, talk boy. Yeah.
Hey, Millsy, I'm home early.
It very much sounds like that. There's some good turns of phrase in this. This is where Collapse Into Now comes from, but like, I love the pairing of street poet, ship poet, on the side of it, and it does create this deluge that works pretty well for me as he's describing this and getting to it. I feel like Patti Smith is a little bit out of place here. I understand why they wanted to have her involved, but just that kind of chorus of Cinderella boy, you've lost your shoe, I don't know what that means.
I don't care about it either.
Yeah.
It sounds annoying to me. And it's just, they really wanted to have her there. Like, they went through great pains,
right,
to get Patti Smith on the album. And it wasn't going to work, and because she was touring, and eventually they made it work. And it does feel, kind of shoehorned in, which is what you don't want.
No,
with something you like put a lot of effort to making happen. Like, you don't want to make it feel like that effort kind of comes through to where it's not really a good fit. I would have much rather had her join the, It Happened Today chorus or something.
Yeah.
And even, as an ending, like me, Marlon Brando, and I would have been like a pretty fine, a nice down note for this to end on if they wanted to do that.
End on like an acoustic version of the Discoverer side of it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. As it is, like, I can't handle these jams, man. And it's the same jam they've already done.
Yeah. I have more patience for it, but I agree. This is a little uninspired.
6 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and part of that 6 minutes, like, they do reprise Discoverer, because otherwise the last line song on the last R.E.M. album would be Patti Smith.
Yeah. Yeah. They have to go back through, and Discoverer is a nice thing for them to reprise. Like,
yeah,
again, sweet idea. I just wish that I liked the song more.
Yeah.
Not, it's not Around the Sun bad. It's not boring. It's just I don't think it's a very successful experiment.
No.
And then that's the last thing. There's a video for this. James Franco directed it.
Yeah. That didn't dispose me to like it very much.
Yeah. And it just scenes around LA and New York. Yeah. Because like it sounds like something that like somebody from Red State America would assume a James Franco video would be.
Right.
It's like the worst thing that they, it's just going to be him showing pictures of buildings and shit. It's like, you're right. Like, it's like, yeah, you're actually correct. That is all it is. And it does suck.
Yeah.
Perhaps we have more in common, you and I.
Yeah.
It's not my fave.
I love this person who's so angry about James Franco.
I just assume that he because I think that if he's enough of like a shitty Hollywood guy for it to bother me, he's got to really bother people who are just bothered by Hollywood in general.
Yeah, he's definitely got to trip the censor.
Yeah. If my sensitivities are tripped by James Franco, I'm just imagining.
Yeah. The other clue that Paul is dead is that it opens and ends on a shot of a sign that says "The End," but it's shown backwards. It's shown from behind.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it ends up being the record.
Yep.
First and worsts. I don't think there are any disqualifications in this either. I don't think that there's
no. There's nothing that stands out.
No day sleepers.
Very much ahead. My first has to be Uberlin, man. I love Uberlin so goddamn much.
Yeah, it's really good. That's a great song.
Yeah, I made my case during the actual time of it, the mood of it, how understated but complex it is, and just the lyrical content speaks to me in a really personal way. I've listened to it just on a loop.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah,
like it is. It might it's up there. This album actually, when I was calling Day Sleeper like the last like A+ R.E.M. songs, it's like there's a bunch of A's here that don't quite do the extra credit to get A+, but are still
there's lots of 97s.
Yeah, tons of 97s on this shit. So I still maintain that. Like, I still don't think there's anything here that's quite like that kind of classic R.E.M., but there's a lot of good songs on this record.
Yeah.
I would probably say "Oh My Heart," which is like, it's either that or it's That Someone Is You. It depends on how much I'm going to care about the verses.
Also the day. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm in the mood for. Like, Oh My Heart doesn't have bad verses. Like, the verses are actually very good. They're just slightly less impressive to me than the super fun chorus. But That Someone Is You is a song that like I feel like is more unique to R.E.M's catalog than anything else they've done. Like,
yeah,
weirdly enough, it sounds more conventional, but I can't think of another song they've done that is that direct.
right.
Like not even something like Star 69 is quite that like,
right.
That brief and to the point and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Worst is
hard. Worst is very hard.
It's not hard. I mean, Blue in a walk.
Okay.
For me, I do like when I say don't skip anything, I don't have to skip Blue, but it's already the end of the album. It's very easy for me to get up and walk and do something else.
Yeah.
I don't think that song is very good.
Yeah.
So
I think that for me, the worst would be Every Day Is Yours to Win.
Yeah, that's not particularly good either.
Yeah, because in an album from a band where I prize variety in both, that, if it's a choice between It Happened Today and Every Day Is Yours to Win, they both accomplish very similar things. Every Day Is Yours to Win just does it worse. So I will keep Blue. I don't think Blue should be the as long or the actual album ender. But Every Day Is Yours to Win feels superfluous in a way that like I would strike it from this record.
Yeah, I don't think that Blue is. I think that I think I'd agree that's more redundant.
Yeah,
I think it's less of like I guess there's like a record perspective where I would agree with that, and then there's the song perspective.
Yeah,
and like in a vacuum, I think Every Day Is Yours to Win is a better song, but has a worse place on the album.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'll stick with mine though. Every Day Is Yours to Win.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. No. I'm saying I can see it from a different angle. I can agree with you.
Yeah.
Depending on whether I'm thinking of an album structure. Yep. Or just whether it's a good song or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the thing that you can tell like in Around the Sun where there's a 7-way tie for like worst. Like it's so hard to find the worst. Here, the worst was very easy for me. Finding the best was like pretty hard because Oh My Heart and That Someone Is You, but I could also be convinced that Uberlin, would be the one pretty easily. Mm-hmm. You could make a case for Walk It Back as being really good too.
Yep.
Very up there. Like I think that's a great song. We didn't talk about the video for that just because we missed it, but I think the video for that's actually really charming.
It's so gross.
It's just like some footage, it's compiled footage, but the woman tap dancing in the parking garage with the big smile on her face, I think is very like charming.
And then it fits the music very well.
Yeah. And then it switches to a horse pissing at some point in like an extended cut.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the horse pissing. Like first you think, that horse has a pretty big dick, as horses do. Oh, it's pissing. Huh. How about that?
Oh, you're going to keep going with this,
you're going to keep following. Oh, it's frothing on the ground and kind of trailing toward the camera. I hope you move before it reaches your feet. Oh, wait, you didn't?
It's a lot of suspense. It's like Alfred Hitchcock said, it wasn't just knowing that the horse piss was there. Where it's not hiding. You don't want to just look down and see horse piss.
Right.
It's you show the audience the horse piss under the table. And then it's up to the audience to say, when's that going to go off?
Yeah. The floor on this album is very high for me.
Yeah, I guess that's the point. Like it is, it's well, to me, I mean, I guess it's the opposite because, like I said, it is obvious to me which song is the worst song. Mm-hmm. The ceiling is incredibly high. Yeah. Like there are a lot of songs I think that like could be the best song on the album. Mm-hmm. That's like someone is like, what, the best song on this album is Mine Smells Like Honey. Like that chorus is incredible. I'd be like, yep. Like yeah, you're right. Like that is that chorus is undeniable. That is like a really really great R.E.M. chorus. I can't get over it, like, and you can make an argument for a lot of the songs.
Yes, you can.
So I think that's just a really good album.
Mm-hmm. Such a good note to go out on.
Yeah, they did it. The boys did it. Like I said, there's no fan club stuff. Almost nothing in the way of B-sides. Just a couple live versions, except for a kind of embarrassing, I think, instrumental called Nola.
Yeah.
Guess what that was written. And the it's like it doesn't sound like R.E.M., but it's just another. It's not surf, so it's got that going for them.
Right.
But this is what they're doing for B-sides now.
It sounds like production music that would be playing in the back of like a movie that is set in the South and wants to say something about the South, but didn't want to commit on really being like scathing about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's just like an electric guitar country boogie that kind of the wheels fall off about partway through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not my favorite. thing. And then, that's going to be it for, there are actually some other songs. When we talk about odds and sods during the next episode, they put out a greatest hits that had 3 extra songs on it.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that then.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the breakup a little bit, like the actual breakup. We talked about this a lot during the beginning, but we'll get into a little bit of this as well.
Yes. Who knows how apocryphal this is, because Peter Buck can be Peter Buck sometimes.
Yeah.
But he recounted a story saying like, hey, Michael Stipe said, hey, I need to be away from this for a long time. During the recording, just because it took stuff out of him, like, it was a big deal. And Buck responded, well, a long time. How about forever?
Yeah.
That's a very pithy way to say it, but like they more broadly decided, oh, we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. We're really proud of what we're making. We've been going for a while. Let's just call it. Let's call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah. As we mentioned, that's a very admirable in the terms they went out on, but they made a decision. They'd all been kind of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like nobody in the core 3 were blindsided. It's just Scott McCaughey. So they announced the breakup 6 months later after the album came out. September 21st, Wednesday, 2011, they did on their website with a general statement that just said, hey, we have decided to call it a day. We're walking away with this great sense of gratitude. We love that we've done. Thank you to everybody who's been touched by our music. Then every member of the band did their own little personalized statements. And talked about how they're still friends. They still operate a unit and stuff. Yeah. There's a great, the book really underlines the Stipe one, but I really like the Peter Buck one where he talks about, you're still going to find me, like, I'm still going to be at record stores pawing through things and being in the audience with you, watching the next group of young kids try to change the world.
Yep.
And I was like, that's very sweet. That is a very sweet sentiment.
Yeah. And Stipe's response was just to repeat a quote that he heard. I forget who he attributed it to, but just the key skill in attending a party is knowing when to leave.
Yeah. Which is true. And that's they could have, it's kind of weird because R.E.M. had their bad period already. They did it in career.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the shambling corpse thing. Like it reminds me a lot of Bowie.
Yeah.
In Arc. Even down to like if you expand, if you doubled time, like they roughly correspond. Like the 80s for Bowie roughly corresponds to the Around the Sun period.
Yeah.
For R.E.M.
But
they got out.
Yep, they got out. And importantly for me, because I am invested in these characters and I know they're actual people, but we've been covering it as a story. They got out still respecting and loving each other. And that is tremendous.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often.
No.
There's not tons of stories about bands where somebody doesn't die or they don't shamble on as a corpse or they don't somebody gets shitty or something like that.
Or they sue.
They sue. Yeah, something bad happens, and it just has not happened yet.
Yeah.
So good for them. I'm proud of the boys. And we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of wrap up on the show, wrap up on the band and everything. Life after R.E.M. Next episode.
Yep.
So they still have that final greatest hits, which they have a couple songs on. There's some stuff we missed. Yeah.
And we've got a fun thing that we're going to talk about as well. And it's all fun, but something that I've been looking forward to.
Yeah. And we're not, as we mentioned, it's too late to send in your questions and prompts. If you have already, thank you very much. Thanks for listening and everything. And we'll see you guys next episode. For the end of the File Underwater, which I'm really happy that we got a chance to do this.
Me too.
It got me, even the bad album. I'm very happy that I got a chance to listen to Around the Sun in its entirety, even though it's shitty.
Yeah.
It's like I feel good having done that. So I think we also succeeded in our goals of like having that kind of long view perspective on these guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the show is going away, but we still have all the other shows on the network, and those are supported by our Patreon. That is how we get our funding from you, a little bit at a time. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv if you haven't already. It's likely that you already do, but go there and take a look if you haven't. It makes a huge difference for us. It enables us to do fun stuff like this.
Yeah, pull us out of cartoon quicksand. If the other thing you can do is rate and review the show. Even though the show's ending, that might seem pointless, but it's not, because we still want people to listen to it. The show is not going anywhere,
right? So
they'll still be available for new, people who like R.E.M. who decide to get into it. Mm-hmm. Send them our way. Yeah. That goes with all of our, any of our things that have ended.
Yes.
Send them our way. I think that's probably about it.
I think so.
Yeah.
So please come back for the next episode. Like, don't just leave it here. I don't want to beg you or anything, but I think the last one's going to be fun.
Yeah. I think that people probably won't ditch out just because they'll go down with the ship.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. Until next time, it is the end of the podcast, and we feel fine.
Oh, you took my line.
I did. I forgot what the sign off was for a second, so I stole it.
Can you set it up? I'll feel real bad if I don't get my. Just say it's the end. It's the end of the podcast.
Well, I know what it is now that you talked about it.
Right. Can we do it though?
I mean, I guess now it feels weird though because it's getting built up. Some say the history of building things up began in 18.
It's important to me though.
All right. It is the end of the podcast as we know it,
and we feel fine.